Welcome back to my channel. I'm Maggie Ostara, and I am a certified human design and quantum human design expert, and I am the creator of the 8 Pillars of Feminine Sovereignty, and I'm delighted that you're here. Welcome. Today's video is going to focus on the transit that is happening on the 19th of July and the new energies that are going to be coming in with the sun and the earth. And we've got kind of a humdinger coming up here on the weekend. So stay tuned to find out all the details. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in. So on Friday, July 19th, the sun is going to move into the gate 56 and the earth is going to move into the gate 60. We're going to focus today a lot on the gate 60 because the gate 60 is going to be super highlighted during this time, and it's an important gate for us to get to know. So let's just step back for a second and talk about the gate 60. So the gate 60 is in the root center. It's all the way down at the bottom of the spine, and it is in the knowing circuit. And the knowing circuit begins here up in the gate 61, and then it splits and goes around and comes back up through the central channel. And so the energy that is coming through the knowing circuit is going to come through that gate 60, coming up through the central channel. And the mate of the 60 is the 3, which is known as innovation, and sometimes known as difficulty at the beginning, which is the I Ching name for it. And so the 60 is known as acceptance in traditional human design or conservation in quantum human design. And the function of this gate is to be sorting through all of the different mutations, all the changes, all the progressions that have been happening to decide what of these are really useful for us that we want to carry forward with us into our future. And sometimes the challenge of the 60 is the fear of change, because the knowing circuit is in the individual circuitry and it is very dynamic. It's all about change. It's where the evolutionary impulse of humanity runs through the human design chart, in particular in the knowing circuit, but in general in individual circuitry. And so the knowing circuit is full of all kinds of downloads, all kinds of new possibilities and potentials and inspirations and epiphanies that come to us through superconsciousness, through being plugged right into that creative intelligence of the universe. And so there's a lot of really intuitive, leading edge, out of the box possibilities that come to us through the knowing circuit. Now, the thing is that all of those ideas, those possibilities, those potentials aren't necessarily something that we are here to manifest right at this time. And some of them are things that maybe we experimented with, but we don't really want to carry forward with us moving forward into the next phase of our life. And so there is this kind of sorting out process to say, oh yeah, this is useful. Oh, I want to take this forward into my future for sure. Or no, not so much. That's part of the old order. I really don't want to be carrying that forward. So you have the opportunity while this 60 is being lit up to really bring your discernment up and to be taking a look at your life, taking a look at the lives of the people that you care about and of the larger collective, to be thinking about, well, what is it that has been changing around me and is changing in me, changing in my communities that I really want to carry forward? And what is it that I want to die back into the old order because it doesn't work anymore? Or it's possible it's a mutation that isn't really feasible right now, or maybe will never be feasible. I always think of like Thomas Edison with 5,000 light bulbs that didn't work until he eventually did get a light bulb that worked, right? So there's all these different mutations that he went through in the creative process. And he had a really leading edge, out of the box idea, right? And he had to work with it and work with it and work with it over and over again and experiment until he got something that actually worked. And this happens a lot in our lives, right? Especially you third lines, right? The experimenters. You try things out and you're testing sorting, is it worthwhile? Does it work or not? And this happens, all the time actually in our lives, but we're really experiencing this big time right now collectively because Pluto has been in the gate 60 and will be in the gate 60 for another few months and has been going back and forth through the gates of the gate 60 and has been really shining a light on this question of what are we going to take forward with us into our future? What are we going to let die into the past? And what of the possibilities that we've been experimenting or playing with are we realizing it's not feasible or it's not helpful or it's not functional, at least not right now. Maybe there'll be something more in the future that'll come in. So Pluto is the god of the underworld. And Pluto wants us to pay attention to what it is that he's lighting up. And he's pretty intense about it because Pluto is like Phoenix energy, right? It's like burn it down, rebuild it. Death and rebirth, death and rebirth. And we're seeing in the collective right now, because Pluto is the most outer planet, right, is one of those generational planets. It's really affecting the collective. And we're seeing this really all over the world. It's happening big time here in the United States. It's definitely happening in Europe. I'm sure it's happening other places. I just don't know as much, where we're seeing that the old world, right, the old way of doing things, whether that's politically, whether that's economically, whether it's environmentally, whatever it is, whether it's in terms of our institutions, a lot of the things that we've taken for granted are not working anymore. And they're certainly not working very well. And we're seeing things starting to kind of shred and break down at the edges. And if you're outside of these wealthier countries, then you're getting to experience this way bigger than we are right now because of the economic power that these Western countries have. The population, like myself, are relatively insulated from a lot of that. Not everybody, obviously, for sure. But generally speaking, it's people in other parts of the world that are experiencing climate change, for example, more powerfully than those of us who are in the Western countries. So having said that, we're also looking at socially, what are the progressions that have been made that we want to carry forward? And what are the ones that we want to say, no, not for now. We're not going to work with that one. And we're seeing this really strong in our political sphere here in the US and in other parts of the world, where there is a big pushback against change, right? Trying to turn the clock back. Like people are digging in their heels and saying, we don't like all of this progression that has happened over the last 50, 60 years. We don't like all the changes in relationships and in marriages or not, and in genders or not, and in, the ways that we are operating in the world, and what our identity is, how we understand our history and all of that, right? There's a lot of pushback. There's a rise because people are afraid of what's going on a lot in the world because a lot of things are falling apart. And some people are trying to shore up an old order that is not going to be able to continue long term into the future because the ground that we're living on is changing so dramatically. So all of this is really coming to a head right now in terms of the astrology of it, because the Earth is moving into the gate 60 with this transit starting on the 19th. So that's happening. So Pluto's been there, and Pluto's been like, okay, what are you going to do, right? What are you going to carry forward with you? Are you going to embrace change, or are you going to fight change? Are you going to decide that you need to be more conservative and you need to dig your heels and you need to say we need to go back to some time in the past, like Project 2025, for example? That's basically what its project is, right? Are we going to do that? Or are we going to embrace change and realize that we are evolving and we are changing and that we need to get up to speed with what's actually true with us right now and not try to, just fight what's actually already happening, because the energy that's moving through the planet and moving through the solar system is definitely producing change. And you know what? Cosmic energy, little human beings, which one do you think is going to win out over the long term? Right? So there's that. So the Earth is here now. And so the Earth is asking us to ground ourselves And what is it we want to bring forward? And then we have a full moon on Sunday, the 21st, which is a very important full moon. And I'll talk about that more a little bit in a minute. But the full moon is also going to be in the gate 60. And interestingly enough, the gate 60 is also the 29th degree of Capricorn, which is considered a super intense degree of any sign when you get to the very end of it, the 29th degree. And so we have a big full moon that's happening, and it's the second full moon in Capricorn, which is highly unusual. Usually if we get a blue moon, it's because we have two full moons inside of 1 month, a calendar month. This is two moons inside of one sign. I'm sure it's happened before, but I can't think of when. We'd have to ask an astrologer. I'm not actually an astrologer. But it's certainly not common. It's nowhere near as common as blue moons, because blue moons happen like a couple times a year. So we have a supercharged energy around that 29th degree of Capricorn, the gate 60, Pluto's there, the Earth's there, and the full moon is going to be there. So it's a big event that's happening, and it's kind of supercharging and saying to us, are we going to get clear, and are we going to stand behind the changes that matter to us, that we want to see carried forward into the future, whether that's politically, whether it's socially, whether it's environmentally, whatever sphere it may be. So not only that, okay, in terms of all of that astrology and what's happening in human design, it's actually a holiday in the Hindu tradition, and it's called Guru Purnima, and it's a day that we honor our teachers, because the lore is that this is the day that Shiva actually started to offer his teachings to his students. And so historically, this is when, a great avatar was starting to offer teachings. And there's a piece in there about the Buddha as well, which I'm not as familiar with, but it had to do with when he became enlightened. So just to say, this is a very supercharged day. And it is a day that if you want to, and I certainly will be acknowledging my teachers. I acknowledge my Kundalini Yoga, Radiant Body Yoga teacher, Kia Miller, who you've heard me talk about, and I've offered some of her practices here on my channel. So I'm definitely honoring her. I'm honoring Karen Curry Parker, who has been my human design and quantum human design teacher and mentor. I'm honoring Frances Smith Foster, who was my mentor and the director of my dissertation when I was getting my PhD. These are some really big teachers for me. I could go on and on about my teachers, but it's great for you to be pulling those together. And one of the things that they do in the Hindu tradition is people, and Buddhists do this too. They have pictures of their teachers. They have little altars with their teachers. So that's kind of a nice thing to do on a special day like this. And as you're doing that, if you bring in that question, that inquiry that we get from the gate 60, which of these teachings that you have received from your major teachers are you going to carry forward into your life? Which are the ones that you're like, they didn't resonate with me. I'm not going to use those so much. Or I'm just going to let them go. And what do you want to affirm for yourself that you're going to be carrying forward from your teachers, and to honor them and to have gratitude for them? I know I feel immense gratitude, like for Rahuru, who was a bit of a reluctant mystic, but he brought through this beautiful system of human design. He was never directly a teacher of mine, meaning I never studied with him directly. I've done programs of his and, read stuff of his and so on, but never got to study with him directly. But I am very much honoring him, just as I'm honoring, the legions of yogis who went before me, who brought so many different teachings to us over thousands and thousands of years. We are so blessed to be receiving these teachings. So for you just to acknowledge that, even if it's as simple as acknowledging, like your parents, because of course our parents are the people who are our caregivers that we grew up with, are always our first teachers. So just have a moment, on Sunday, if you can, to be honoring your own teachers, and to be really just looking at yourself and being like, what is it that is important to me now? What are my values? What do I stand for? What do I want to bring forward into the future? And what do I want to leave behind? This is such an important alignment that I'm actually doing a special event on Saturday, the 20th, at 10 a.m. in the morning Pacific time, to help us to work with these energies and to be tuning into what it is that we want to carry forward. And so I'll do a teaching, a more in-depth teaching about what we were just talking about the alignments and so on, bring in a little more astrology. And then we'll also do a practice that you can use to boost your energy, and then a little exercise to help us to write down and work with our intentions of what that we want to bring forward with us. So I hope that you will join us there. The way to get involved is there'll be a link down below. It will be a YouTube live, so you can watch it here live on YouTube. And you can also RSVP for it in our Becoming Sovereign Quantum Retreat Center, where we'll also be having conversation and discussion about it. So I hope that you'll join us for that. So that is the Earth and Pluto and the Moon in the gate 60. Okay. And then the Sun is lighting up the gate 56. The gate 56 is the divine storyteller. It's one of the 3 storytelling gates in the chart. It is on the throat center. And so it is about articulation, right? Articulation, manifestation, activation. And it is in the sensing circuit. So it's collective circuitry. So we've got, on the one hand, we've got the Earth in the 60, which is individual circuitry. And then we've got the Sun in collective circuitry in the gate 56. And so the 60 is all about these mutations. What are we going to carry forward with us and so on. And then the 56 is, what stories are we going to tell about it? What stories are we going to share about what it is that we're leaving behind us, that we're letting go into the cosmic compost? What aspects of the old order, including the old order inside yourself? It doesn't necessarily have to be something out there. Like, I think about the different things I've let go of, as I've matured over the course of my life, right? So I've had an old order in me too, that I'm letting go. So you can look at that. But then also, when you look at the larger world, like, what is it that you want to let go of? And what story are you going to tell about why you're letting it go? And what story are you going to tell about what you're going to bring forward with you and why that's so important? Because stories are how we really understand what's true for us. It's how we digest information. It's how we process our personal experience. It's how we teach and share with each other about what we've learned, right? Stories are a fundamental human experience where we're putting into narrative format, our understanding about things and our understanding about each other, right? Because stories are about people, oftentimes. And so we get to learn about who we are. So this is a really interesting configuration where you're being stimulated in a huge way about what are you going to keep, what are you going to let go of, and why does it matter, and what mutations or progressions or new innovations that you want to give your energy to, and how are you going to share about it? Right? What are you going to say about it? Because that is also really important. And as our world becomes increasingly polarized, which unfortunately is happening, the stories that we tell are really, really important. I want to encourage you, as you tell your stories, to decide not to feed the polarization if you possibly can. The way that we start to go, those people are bad, they're my enemies, we need to control them, we need to do whatever to them, right? That whole thing, because that's all power over, right? Trying to manipulate or coerce people or situations in order for us to feel more safe, right? That is our power over strategies. I call that shadow energy, right? Because we're afraid of something, we're trying to control things and coerce things and manipulate them to go the way that we want them to, which we oftentimes do kind of unconsciously, honestly. So we don't want to do that, right? In terms of the story that we're telling, can we tell one that is more kind, that has more space for more people, that understands why some people might be afraid of change, for example, rather than them making them bad people or saying they're troglodytes, which unfortunately people do say that, to be like, wow, yeah, I get it. Sometimes people get really afraid of change and then they express things and they do things. I don't necessarily agree with them, right? I'm not going to put my energy behind that and support that. But can I understand why some people might be afraid of change. And can I meet them in a place of common humanity around that? Because if we're going to evolve into being more whole individually and collectively, if we're going to move into unity consciousness, if we're going to move into the recognition that we actually are really all connected because we are all expressions of that creative intelligence of the universe, then polarization is not going to serve our evolution in that direction. I know it can be very seductive to put your energy behind that, but I don't encourage it. I really want to support you to at least step back, try to get as big a picture as you can, try to take in multiple points of view, which is really important for those of you with defined ajnas, because that can be hard. And to try to get multiple perspectives so you can see, rather than getting locked into one side or the other and getting into conflict. This is how war happens, right? This is how people shoot each other on the street, because they're polarized and they see each other as enemies. They dehumanize the other people, and that they think that that gives them the license to commit violence against each other. This is what we're evolving out of, right? So for me, the 60 is really clear for me that we are evolving out of that. And I want to put energy in that direction. And I invite you to do that as well. In addition to the special full moon alignment event that I'm going to do on Saturday, I'm also doing an event on July 25th, on Thursday, called 3 Keys to Creatively Living Your Human Design. I sent out a survey over the last month or two asking people for their input about what they would like me to teach on inside of the new Sovereign Circle membership program that is going to be launching as beta in August and in September with the full new membership level inside of the Becoming Sovereign Quantum Retreat Center. And the number one thing that people said that they wanted was to discover and practice more ways of creatively working with their human design. So I thought that was really great because I love to use creativity with human design. So I'm doing an event that's going to talk about creativity and human design. We'll get to do a practice together. And it'll also give you a preview of what we're going to be doing in the Sovereign Circle. And if this is something that you're curious about right now, I'm sending out invitations to people who've done programs with me or done readings with me. But if you're seeing this and you're like, wow, I'm curious about that, right? You can just shoot me an email and, or put a comment below. I'll go and check the comments and I can send you an invitation to check that out. And you can find out more about it in the 3 Keys to Creatively Living Your Design, which is happening on the 25th. So any of those options are available to you. And I hope that you will be curious about it and that you'll come and join us there if you want to, because I'm really excited about what we're putting together. So links both to this event and to the one I'm doing on Saturday are down in the description. And I hope that you will join us for one or both of those. And there will be replays that are available if you can't make it live. I know I have a global community. Not everybody can make it at the time that I'm doing them live. So happy to provide you with replays, and make sure to come by and say hello. I'd love to connect. All right. Many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.